My name is Michelle, and I am the host here of the Language Lounge. And today I am very happy to have Diego Ojeda here with me, and we're going to talk about Hispanic Heritage Month. And one of the things that I really liked that stuck with me, I don't know if I read it in a blog post or if you put it on Twitter or where I saw that, but I remember you saying that we have 1 month and we can get it really right or we can get it really wrong. And I thought, wow, that says a lot. And that's kind of what we're going to talk about, right? And how we can get this right as Spanish teachers, world language educators, people that care about the language and the people that speak it, and how sometimes we might go do it wrong, even though we're not intending that, right? So I'm so excited to have you here. Before we start, there might be people that do not know you. So if you want to just kind of introduce yourself, tell me and the audience a little bit about what you do and who you are. I'd love that.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and I'm so very happy to be here. Thank you for the invitation. I love the podcast, and I
Thanks.
watch, the different interviews that you do. So when you contacted me, I got very excited. So thank you so much, Michelle. I'm a Spanish teacher in Louisville, Kentucky, and this year I teach Spanish 4. 2 sections, and I teach AP language, 1 section, large section, and an AP literature in Spanish, or AP Spanish literature and culture, 1 section as well. And this is all in Louisville, Kentucky, and I teach for an independent school.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience with Hispanic Heritage Month? Like, what was I know you have a story to tell about the first time you kind of heard about Hispanic Heritage Month, right?
Sure. Yeah, of course. The first thing is that I have to agree with you in the fact that we have a month to celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month, and we either do it right or we do it really bad. When you think about National French Week, it's just a week. So in that week, they have different activities and everyone is excited. And, it causes a great impression on students at school because every day there's something new. Hispanic Heritage Month drags a little bit. And, we cannot be having parties or fiestas every day to keep everyone happy. But then that is the point, do we celebrate these things to keep our students happy and make a fiesta? Or do we celebrate this month because there's a very important reason to celebrate the Hispanic culture in the United States? Referring to what you were asking me, I have never felt celebrated as Hispanic in the United States. I'm a Spanish teacher who celebrates Hispanic Heritage Month every year at school, in my classes, in a Spanish club, at large. But I honestly always feel like outside of that. And that's ironic because I'm Hispanic, I'm the teacher organizing, but I always feel like outside of that. So one of those.
So tell me more about that. Like why? Like why is that, do you think? Because I think I have some ideas too. But
I think part of it is that because I'm a teacher, it is my responsibility to organize things and make sure that they run well. But also now I understand that is my responsibility to help my students understand what this month should mean and what this month should be. So I actually have changed things in the way we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month, at least in my classes, that we can talk about this later.
Yes, for sure.
But what I was going to say is that in one of those blog posts that you referred to, I was talking about how ironic it is that we are in the classroom having a fiesta because we're celebrating this month. And at that moment, there was a crew of Hispanic workers right outside of our classroom, doing something with the landscaping or something like that. And they probably heard the music, they heard Voy a reír, Marc Anthony here, Shakira over there. And they were kind of like, working and listening, but no one will look at them. No one opened the
Mhm.
door, the windows to say, hey, happy Hispanic Heritage Month. And that's quite the irony because then we keep doing that. But I don't think it's the students' fault, of course. I don't think it's the school's fault. I think it's the way we have approached the whole thing as a community at large. And those are some of the things that I keep thinking about. Mhm.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that you touched on someplace too is kind of the commercialization of it, right? And how this is a really a product, almost focuses on product a lot, and
Right.
maybe us as Spanish teachers have kind of also done that. We focus on some of the food or the some of the physical products and not the people that
Right.
are the perspectives and that sort of thing a
Yeah,
little bit.
I believe that the first thing that we have to do is to make sure that we share with our students why is this month celebrated? How
Hmm.
come an entire month, not just a day or a week, but a month? So we can share with them what the government in, I think it was in 1968, uh, decided to do in order to celebrate the Hispanic culture in the United States. And I actually found a little piece on an official website that reads like this: the day of September 15 is significant because it is the anniversary of independence for Latin American countries Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua. In addition, Mexico and Chile celebrate their independence days on September 16 and September 18, respectively. Also, Columbus Day or Dia de la Raza, which is October 12th, falls within this 30-day period. Okay,
That
so
makes
they're
my
talking
eyes
about
go up.
Latin America, but they are mentioning just a few countries: Costa Rica, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, and Nicaragua, and Mexico. Okay. And then they say Chile as well. They celebrate their independence on September 16. So stretching it a little bit, right? But we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. But the worst part of this paragraph is that it also celebrates Columbus Day. If there's something that Hispanic people do not like to celebrate is Columbus Day. And we
Yeah.
all know why. And I do know also that some cities in the United States are not celebrating Columbus Day. Okay. So to have that as the reason why we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month can be a little confusing for the students. Number one, is Latin America only those countries in Central America? No. If we're talking about Hispanic heritage, we're talking about South America as well. We're talking about Colombia, Venezuela, Peru, Ecuador, because there is a large population of these groups in the United States. So, how can we, help our students understand why is this celebrated? I think it's key to share with them that instead of a celebration, we should be honoring the Hispanic culture because there's a difference between celebration and honoring. When we talk about celebration, and this is from the dictionary as well, it
Hmm.
says the word celebrate is derived from Latin and means to attend in great numbers. So it kind of like connects with the idea of the large fiesta celebration, the music and the dance, and everyone is
Hmm.
celebrating, okay? Which is okay, but it's not the reason why we should um, take into account a specific group of people like the Hispanics in the United States. Now, what means to honor? To honor means to show respect. So, are we necessarily showing respect when we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month through piñatas, through fiestas, chips, salsa, queso, papel picado? Are we necessarily showing respect to the Hispanic culture? Probably not. And what happens is that we have the Hispanic crew working on landscaping while we celebrate, but there is no connection there. And it's really not something that honors this group. Mhm.
Absolutely. There's a lot there, isn't there? And how we can celebrate and not yet honor, right, at the same time in this country.
Exactly.
So
So the
take care of
question
both.
is, you might ask, so how can we honor
Yeah.
rather than celebrating? Okay, how can we honor? Let's think. When we honor veterans, because we don't use the word, we're celebrating veterans, right? We're honoring veterans. So what do? We think about grandpa, we think about those family connections that we have with people who went to war to defend this country. And we think about them as people, as how much they struggled when they were in Vietnam, when they were in South Korea, and how proud that makes us feel. So I believe that a way to honor the Hispanic culture in the United States is by humanizing the immigrant, humanizing the Hispanic in the United States, not seeing them as, someone who just came or someone who came a few years ago and stayed here, but seeing us as part of the community, as people. So it's not easy because then you have to talk about issues like acceptance, diversity, immigration, race, and empathy. But I do believe that is the real task of the teacher in the classroom. That's teaching something to our students. And it's quite different from just having the celebration with the fiestas and the food.
Yeah, and I love what you said about the fiestas, the food. That's fun and that's great. That's a day maybe. That is a day when you can celebrate and have a fiesta and bring in some of those practices. But what are we doing the other 29 days, right? And I think that's really insightful about that disconnect between the celebration, the products, the practice, the celebrities, because a lot of it seems to me about the celebrities, right? the
Right.
the minority that make it into a
Yeah.
high status of musicians and
Right.
whatever it might be, but not necessarily the everyday person that's teaching next to you or
Right.
working in the same building with you or in the
Exactly.
neighborhood with you.
And it's not to say that fiestas are bad or the
Yeah,
music is bad
exactly.
or no, no, no. Let's do it. We have a month, right?
Yeah.
But let's help our students here in the United States understand why the Hispanic community is an important part of the community in this country. And then let's do the papel picado, the piñatas, and
Yeah.
everything. What I'm saying is that let's not just focus on that.
Yeah.
You talk about, how this has become also a commercial kind of like celebration. You go to Target and you see
Hmm.
a bunch of like Hispanic uh, inspired products, clothing, kind of like these kind of things to carry water. And I have to confess that I go to Target and I see that and I feel kind of like proud. I feel like, oh my gosh, they're taking me into account. But then how much? Oh, this is $30. Okay, right. In the end, the goal is to sell, right? That's
Right.
the
Yeah.
goal. And then we end up selling the beautiful flags from the Hispanic countries and this and that. And some people feels like they did their chore just by buying this, so they are just celebrating Hispanics by buying those things. Think about, for example, McDonald's is the same thing. They have specific food for Hispanic Heritage Month, and they do their commercials on TV. Even the NFL. I was watching the game this last weekend, and there was a commercial about Hispanic Heritage Month, and they were portraying a couple of football players that were of Hispanic descent. And great, let's celebrate culture. But then you start to think, how come these places or these businesses like Target, multi-million dollar business like NFL, if they really want to celebrate the Hispanic culture, why don't they go to communities where there's a large Hispanic population here in the United States, like that place where unfortunately happened what happened with that school with this person came and unfortunately killed a lot of kids. But those there are many communities like that around the United States and especially those states. Why don't they invest in their education? Why don't invest in their opportunities? And then, okay, then celebrate. But no, it's about just selling or showing off the couple of Hispanic players that we have in the NFL. That's where we just stay in the surface. And as you say, we need to recognize every person as part of the community. Yes, the people who works in agriculture, well, they're putting the food on your table. The people who works in construction, they're giving you roof. The people who works in factory, they're probably allowing you
Mm-hmm.
to dress well. But not just that, but also professionals, teachers. I'm an example of that. And there are many Hispanic teachers, not only Spanish teachers,
Mm-hmm.
but Hispanic teachers who teach English, who teach math, science. So let's recognize them, lawyers, engineers, and not just the celebrities, as you said, because then the message is the opposite. The only valuable Hispanics are those who become celebrities or athletes, and the rest is just them.
Mm-hmm.
And that is not a good message to our students. So we need to make the homework. We need to research. Okay, who are the Hispanics that right now are doing many things for the country, the at large community? And one way to find out about that is like by watching TV like Univision or
Mm-hmm.
Telemundo, which are TV networks that air from the United States and they are based in the United States. They're just telling the news and everything that happens in Spanish. But chances are that they can present these people who are doing great things in the country, and those are the ones that we need to present to our students. Sometimes we talk so much about Frida Kahlo that it becomes quite the stereotype, and sometimes for some students they mock the fact that she has the unibrow and those things, and the message is not really well taken, and it becomes just fashion. We're gonna
Mm-hmm.
wear something with Frida prints or whatever. It's just fashion. Very few people knows about Diego Rivera and about what he did, for as a painter. That he has many of his paintings here in the United States, even though it was part of the life of Frida Kahlo. So we need to really try to extend, that information that we are sharing with our students. It's the only way they're going to feel that people are part of their community. Otherwise, celebrities and those who came recently to work in those jobs are going to be just outsiders. Mhm.
So what are some things that you've done with your students, or that are some ideas that you have that can help teachers kind of expand beyond just
Right,
the party, the celebration, and get
right,
into some of those more deeper relationships of honoring
right.
the Hispanic culture and the people in it?
Yeah. So I do, as an immigrant, I understood that I had to share my own experience, to tell them the good things, but also the not so good things. To let them know that when I came to this country, I was the only minority teacher at that school district where I was working, and that one day there was a parent who asked me, why are you teaching? And I just recently came from Colombia. It was probably my 4th month in the country. And I said, because I went to school to be a teacher. and he said, well, you should be cleaning bathrooms or you should be working at McDonald's because that's what Hispanics do in my country. But
Oh.
I was kind of like not naive, but I wasn't informed about race struggle in the United States at that point,
Mm.
that it just went over my head. And I repeated, no, I started to become a teacher with a smile.
Right.
And that was probably the worst answer for that person because he got all red and didn't say anything else. Now, if someone after 23 years of living in the United States will say something like that to me, I will probably will
Watch out.
respond in a very different way. See?
Yeah.
So I share with my students experiences as the moment I start talking about immigration in my classes, suddenly I was accused to, I always forget, it's brainwash or wash brain? Brainwash.
Brainwash. Yep.
Brainwash my students' ideas, that I was supporting illegal immigration and I was trying to find people who will support that as well. And that took me to the district's administrators, and I had to explain that we were just informing the students of the reality that is happening. So those were kind of like the bad things, but also the good things, to get to really to get to know the American people. My wife is from Wisconsin, and her
Mm.
whole family is from Wisconsin. And I probably had stereotypes about what an American family looked like. But then I started really learning about how nice people are and can be, and not everyone thinks the same way. So my recommendation is, okay, I'm an immigrant, but if you're not an immigrant and you're still a Spanish teacher, let's say you're not a native speaker of the language, you just love Spanish, then share with them, why do you love Spanish? Chances are that you know people that you
Yeah.
love, that made you love the culture, or maybe you went and lived for 2 3 years in a Hispanic country. Share those things, because that's what's gonna make it real and especially human to the students. Share the experiences, okay? Not just make them research about Antonia Novello, Gloria Estefan, Cesar Chavez, and then present the project. That is not good for the purpose and the ideas that we have for this month. So it is very important to humanize again the Hispanics in the United States. And one way that I do this is by sharing my poetry with them, Michelle.
Yeah. You
As
have a
I mentioned
beautiful
before,
poem. Yes.
yeah, I have a little book called Nostalgia Migrante. So it's all about my experience as an immigrant, but also other people's experiences as immigrants. So I came one way, other people came in a different way. If I compare the way I came to other people, I came in a very comfy way in an airplane to this country, where it's not the same story for everyone.
Yeah.
So every day during Hispanic Heritage Month, I read a poem to them and we talk about the poem. And they can make the connection, obviously, because the person who wrote those poems is in front of them. But we can do the same even if we don't write poetry. Just bring literature, just bring any expression of the soul, any expression of art means something. So there are many Hispanic artists in the United States that through their art they communicate their experiences in this country. The other day I even played for them the word migra migra by Carlos Santana.
Mm.
Migra migra, déjame en paz. See, so we talk about that. Why are they saying this?
Yeah.
It's so hard for the students to see everything that surrounds the fact of coming to a different country and what that means for the people. Uh, that no wonder why they think it's all about the chips and the salsa.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah. That is fantastic, and I will put a link to your blog and to you had a poem on there that Spanish teachers can have for free. Sorry, Migrante, right? And that you had that they would be able
Yes,
to download for Hispanic Heritage Month, and it is quite
yes, of
beautiful. So
course.
I think that we'll make sure to include that in the show notes as well. And I love the idea. Like, I am not a native Spanish speaker. I just love the language and the people and everything about it. And so I think about when I was in the classroom in my early years as well. I don't think I even thought about telling the person that worked down the hall in my school building, happy Spanish, Hispanic Heritage Month. It never even registered to me at all. And we learn and we do better, right? And so I think about all the missed opportunities that I had for not inviting those people into my classroom. Now it's a lot harder than when I was there
Yeah.
before, but bringing those guest speakers in, bringing those real people to talk about their experiences of being a Hispanic person in the United States, right?
Exactly.
I've had down here, so I'm from Minnesota. Didn't encounter a lot of Spanish speakers or Hispanic people until I went, abroad to different countries. Now I live in Florida, where my neighbors, my friends, the teachers I work with, I have such a rich diversity of people around me, and I feel very, very lucky to have that. But I love how you talk about honoring and that difference between honoring and celebrating. So I
Right.
think that's wonderful.
There are
What other
60.
ideas do you have? Yeah.
Yeah, no, you're talking about, the Hispanic population in Minnesota, which actually has, increased in the last
Yes.
20 years because of many work opportunities, and also
Yes.
because the agricultural workers. But I was going to say 60 million people in this country are from Hispanic heritage. And I tell my students, for me, the school is a safe place because everyone knows Senor Ojeda, and I'm Senor, and Senor Ojeda, and Senor here, there. But the moment I get out of the school, and if I decide to walk a couple of blocks, I can guarantee you that in one or more people's head, they might think, "Oh, there's an illegal there. See, that's an illegal," just because the way I look. And the reality
Yeah.
is that um, three-quarters of the 60 million Hispanics living in the United States are either residents or citizens. So we're talking about a large number.
Yeah.
And these are things that we still need to share with the students, those numbers. See?
Yeah.
Because they don't know. I mean, obviously, they don't talk about these things at home. But it's important to know that uh, what the way they think, and not everyone, but the way some people thinks, it's not their fault. It's just the way things have progressed. So if the Hispanic Heritage Month had the intention to celebrate what that little paragraph that I read, these specific countries, and Columbus Day, well, that stays in people's head. But we're in 2022. It's time to see another this from another point of view, from another angle. And that's probably one of the reasons why I end up in the United States. Maybe sharing this angle can, help everyone. And I'm saying helping everyone because the more we understand each other, the more we communicate with each other, um, the better we live. It's as simple as that,
Absolutely.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I love that. Are there any other ideas that you have that you want to share to help the teachers that are in their classroom thinking about we don't have a lot left, but I think I agree we don't need to limit our honoring of the Hispanic culture to our month, right? We're lucky because and that brings me to another point I was thinking about other content areas. They do Spanish artists and politicians and scientists. Like, so we have a special place in the Spanish classroom where we have that opportunity to go deeper, right?
Right.
And to really bring in that human aspect to it even more, I think. So I think that's really, we have a huge opportunity that we
Right.
can
So
that we
I
can
believe
do.
that the most important thing is to bring things in a natural way to the class, not as a project or not because it's Hispanic Heritage Month, but just keep going and then bring things in a natural way. I always say anything that is related to Hispanics in the United States is valuable. Let's talk about the story and the communities in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, California. Let's talk
Mhm.
about how those states look different. Let's talk about the people over there. So I do have some activities here. Like for example, ask your students to research about Hispanics who work by collecting and planting crops of food products we consume every day. So they're conscious that the work that this type of Hispanic workers do is valuable, very valuable. Uh, Irony. This is just a huge irony. Um, I have a neighbor who works for ICE, the Immigration Customs uh, Enforcement Agency, and um, his house was built by immigrants. Okay, and we don't know the immigration status of those immigrants, but the guy will come and will see his house. He will come every week to see how the construction was, and in his icy truck. So it's just a huge irony. So
Yeah.
that's one thing. Ask your students to research the most common Central American towns and city where immigrants who cross the Mexican American border come from. So
Mm.
let's talk about why they come here. They don't come here because life is easier in the States for Hispanics. They don't come here because the American dream is way gone, long way, even for Americans. So why are they coming and where are they coming from and how those towns look like and compared to where they come in the United States? Meaning knowing their home is important as
Mhm.
well. And probably that helps them to feel some empathy. Ask your students to research about Hispanics working in the construction industry. Ask them to make a graph of the places where this workforce is concentrated, the salary, how much they earn, what do they do with the
Mhm.
money. They can ask me, Senor, what do you do with your money? Well, I maintain my family. My wife is also works. We work together, but sometimes I do send some money to family members in Colombia. See, so then they start understanding that we are probably wired in a very different way when it comes to family, right?
Yeah.
And that I talk to my mom every day, even though I'm an old guy. Ask students to research how much money immigrants send to their home, for example.
Mhm.
Ask students to research Hispanics working in various services and ask students to look around their communities, their neighborhoods, because then they're going to find people who, who lives in the same context, the same environment, but are from different races. So what do they do? It depends on where they live. But my students finally open their eyes and see that there are many Hispanic doctors, that there
Mhm.
are many Hispanic professors. Just because I work at an independent school, and obviously the level of living that they have is high. But if we don't ask those questions, if we don't invite them to open their eyes and see how their community looks, they're gonna keep living in the bubble the whole time,
That's
right?
fantastic. Those are a lot of really great ideas. I love it. Anything else that you want to talk
Yeah, I
about?
was thinking about something else, Michelle. I
Good.
was thinking about, you know, uh, accents.
Mm.
So I have been told that I have an accent. I don't know, but I've
Not to
been
you,
told that
right?
I have an accent, right? Number one, everyone in the world has an accent. Everyone. Um, I mentioned my wife is from Wisconsin. When she came here, what she heard was totally different. See?
Yeah.
And even to this point, 10 years after, people here in Kentucky tells her that she has an accent. but she's American, right?
Yeah.
But she's from Wisconsin. Okay.
Yeah, I'm from Minnesota, so I
There
would
you go.
understand her. We have the same accent. You
So
betcha.
accent. There's a say that says, to have an accent is not a sign of what? Do you remember that? It's not a sign of weakness.
Mm,
It's a sign of courage, because that
yeah,
means that the other person is trying to communicate you in a second language. But
100%.
what I think is that saying puts everything on the person with the accent. And I do believe that those of us who recognize accents, but who who stay there, who are always listening to the accent of that person, is us, those ones who really need to be more empathetic. So let me put an example. My students, first time I teach them, one day, first class. So I speak some English. They notice my accent immediately. But after the second, third day, that accent disappears. Why? Because we created community and we created empathy. But if we focus on the accent and we keep hearing the accent, no matter where from, Wisconsin, Colombia, Mexico,
Mhm.
whatever, India, Korea,
Yeah.
that's our problem. We're not being empathetic. So it's not that the person with the accent is courageous. No, it's you who needs to pay attention on how you perceive people.
Yeah, that's a great point. That's fantastic. I love
That
it.
was my last
And,
point.
and before I love it, it's funny that you say that too, because language is so interesting. And we were talking about, I listened to, I'm going to put this in the chat. It was the, I guess it just was you talking on YouTube. I don't know if it was for a specific audience or who it was, but it's very heartfelt. And it's, and you talk a little bit about the irony of, Hispanic Heritage Months. And I was saying that listening to you speak it in Spanish is just, again, it's a very, different experience. And so I am going to put that in the show notes as well. So if you do speak Spanish, you can hear Diego speaking and talking about some of these issues that are important to him in his own language as well. But I just want to say thank you.
Thank you.
And I honor you during this
Thank
Hispanic
you.
Heritage Month. And
Thank
I'm
you.
so happy to have met you and to really just hear about your experiences and to connect with you and be able to really think about what we do in our Spanish classrooms and in our lives, not just Spanish teachers, about how we really can honor those people and places and things in our lives that have made such an impact. And so I just
Exactly.
appreciate the
Well,
time you
I
have
thank you
spent
very
with me
much
today.
for that. When you say that you honor me as a Hispanic, it moves me. It feels quite different. We need to think that if we teach our students to honor the Hispanic community, they're going to take that home and they're going to share that with their parents. And they might change the way many people think. And that's the first step.
Absolutely. Well, it has been an honor to talk with you, and I
Thank
appreciate
you
it
so
so
much.
much. And I look forward to having future conversations with you. I want to meet your wife who's from Wisconsin. So we'll have to get
Yes,
together sometime. Thank you
sounds
so
great.
much.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
I really appreciate the invitation, Michelle. Thank you so much.